Going on, Falcon fan? This your boy Ricondo come back at you with another video. So, guys, today we're gonna talk about Richie Grant. The guy, safety. I know everybody had a lot of expectations for Richie Grant when he came out. I know I was excited. A lot of people was actually, picking Richie Grant to actually be selected by the Falcons last year in the second round. So, when he got selected, um, everybody was excited about it. So was I. Um, and we're going to talk about his first season, and then we're going to talk about expectations for Richard Grant first season. Then we'll go over a little things about what we can expect the Falcons to be doing. Um, any more moves they might make before training camp starts here in about 3 weeks. Still the down time, so that's what we're going to talk about today. So, guys, before we get into the video today, if you have not already, go ahead and please subscribe to the channel. Please hit that notification bell so you know when I drop another video. Please hit the like buttons. I know you guys like to hear what I talk about. And then please share my video throughout the YouTube universe so more people can come in here. We talk about these Atlanta Falcons. So, like I said, we'll talk about Richard Grant. Now, Richard Grant came in and I thought that he was going to actually hit the ground running, but rookie seasons that was really not the case for him. And every NFL player has a different story how they make it into this league. But this year, it's going to be expected for Richard Grant to actually have a pretty big season this year. He has every opportunity in the world to actually succeed. He's going to be penciled in probably as the starter this year. I know they're going to still talk about competitions and training camp, but I think Richard Grant is going to be able to have the opportunity to do his thing and start. So we talk about Richard Grant last year. He had no starts last year at all. Um, so that's one thing to be about second round pick. You think he coming in. The two safeties they did bring in was on 1 year deals. Deron Harmon, Eric Harris. You think Richard Grant could come in and actually, you know, have more of opportunity to play, but um, Deron Harmon and Eric Harris actually played pretty good um, during the season. Of course, we know Eric Harris did get hurt towards the end. Deron Harmon um, kind of disappointed me to me. I thought he was going to be a little bit better, but he was a journeyman himself at safety. He started some games, but a lot of times he was playing the backup role as well. So um, we didn't get a lot of what we thought we was going to get from Deron Harmon. I still remember the game on the Washington football team when they let Terry McLaurin catch a ball, pretty much a moonshot ball that the quarterback just threw up in the air, and they both were just standing there, him and the cornerback at the time, just let the guy catch the ball. I still remember that play. But last year, Richie Grant had 35 tackles. He had one forced fumble, two pass defense, and he had two tackles for losses. So not a lot. Like I said, he never actually got a chance to start. He did play 16 games. He played a lot on special teams. He's a great tackler, and believe it or not, I think he actually probably played a lot out of position last year, from what I can tell about Richard Grant. I felt like he played out of position last year. We know it was by necessity because Isaiah Oliver got hurt. He had to play a lot of slot corner himself. So a lot of things that we seen from Richard Grant, um, I think he was were really just not in his element like he really wanted to be. We had a couple of interviews when they talked about Dean Pease to interview him, and they talked about Richard Grant. He felt like that he wasn't grasping the defense like he wanted him to, and instead of putting him out there and he make a lot of mistakes and everybody say he's playing bad, Dean Pease don't want to do that. He don't want to put guys out there to make themselves look bad. He want to put guys out there they can be successful. I can completely understand that. So he held him back until he felt like it was time for Richard Grant to come in and actually play. Because what you want to do, especially in the NFL, you want to be able to play fast and not think so much about the calls and what you got to do. Um, think they interviewed Richard Grant early this season, and he actually mentioned that. Um, He was getting the playbook better. He feels a whole lot better from last year to this year. We always talk about, and we always bring it up, the transition from year one to year two for rookies and things like that. And with Richard Grant, I think it was good for him to actually sit back, learn. Like I said, he learned from two good veterans out there. Eric Harris is back this year, so he still could actually get some more, um, you know, coaching from of course, the coaches themselves, and then some veterans like a Eric Harris, like a Dean Marlowe, those guys that's going to be on the team as well. So, but Richard Grant has the opportunity to 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 start. All right, and I think he's going to go back to his natural position, which is free safety. I think he plays better at free safety. Now, the one thing about Dean P's defense, which is really interesting, is the fact that Dean Pease like to switch his safeties back and forth, so he'll have that free safety come down to play strong safety and vice versa. So he want his safeties to be able to actually play both of those positions, which is good because then the quarterback can't key off who's playing deep and who's playing up in the box. That's good. I think both Richard Grant and Jalen Hawkins has that ability to do that, and as of right now, both of those guys are definitely going to be, I think, the starting safeties going into the season. Of course, we always talk about competition. They are going to have some competition um, during training camp, but those two guys, in my opinion, is going to get opportunity to actually um, be the starters for at safety for the Atlanta Falcons. Now, what also is going to help these guys is the fact that we have guys like a AJ Terrell, a Casey Hayward. Um, we already talked so much about AJ Terrell, his potential, what he already have shown so far, um, his career, and you can only see him getting better and better. So then you bring in a veteran like Casey Hayward. These guys already a bit developing that chemistry. They already knew each other. They got the same agent and things like that. But I don't know if you guys seen the clip. They already getting ramped up for the start of training camp. Just like probably most of the NFL players now. Like I said, they 3 weeks out. You don't want to go come in a training camp out of shape and not ready to go, because once training camp start, the season is it's on go probably until, like I said, to um January, hopefully for us to February, even maybe we get into February, right? We're gonna put our cross our fingers on that. But see if these guys can get that far. But I mean, especially this year, because you look at our bye week, I think our bye week is like week 12, week 13, something like that. So these guys, when they start here in training camp, they're gonna go from the end of July until almost sometime in December, right? So you got to think that these guys going to be it's going to be balls to the wall. So these guys got to get ready. Hopefully, the coaching staff being smart with these guys, making sure that they do everything they have to do to be healthy. We know injury is going to be there. Like I said, Isaiah Oliver is another factor in that defensive backfield, and because he got injured last year, that would force Richard Grant to come in and have to play some of that slot position. They tried to put Avery Williams in that slot position. You know what happened to him, especially in that Dallas Cowboy game. Go back and look at that. They put Darren Hall in that position, so it was a trying to utilize and put somebody in that nickel spot. They was trying to do it by committee. So hopefully Isaiah Oliver stay healthy. That's always one of the important elements of football. You know, injury is going to happen. You just hope they're not, season-ending injuries or anything like that. And it's not like what like we had that one year where we had Ricardo Allen, we had Deion Jones, we had Keanu O'Neal. All those guys got hurt, and pretty much you know up the middle of your defense like that, all your guys are injured at one time, and then we had no depth. I think if you look at this team, I think they kind of built it better this year. and they built it better than the last 2 years. You look at our depth on our team, so um, that's definitely going to be helpful. We do have some guys that could fill in, but what we want to see, especially to start the season and majority of the season, if we can get those two cornerbacks out there along with Isaiah Oliver and our two safeties, and then we can have these other guys come in and play spot minutes if they have to. I still like the way Eric Harris played last year, even though he missed a lot of interception, things like that. So we can't have it all, but just looking at somebody um like Eric Harris being a depth piece, a D Marto Luna being a depth piece, um, a Tease Tabor, somebody like that. All these guys, like I said, Darren Hall. Um, I think we got a lot of depth. So I think this year in the secondary, from a secondary standpoint, we definitely going to be a whole lot better. But I think this is what Richard Grant wants. This is what he needs. He has to be able to come in and take over that starting position. And at some point, we look at draft classes. So right now, you're looking at the draft class from last year. All right. We know Kyle Pitts is where he needs to be. That second round pick and Richard Grant, he has to show some flashes this year. Of course, you don't say guys are bust or anything after 1 year, but Richard Grant has to start to make some kind of contributions, because if he don't, we can start looking at this draft class from last year and start to kind of question some of the players they selected. We think about Jalen Mayfield. We know what kind of season he had last year. We definitely want to see if he's going to improve from year one to year two. I think Oak Daisy is definitely is a bright spot for us moving forward. Avery Williams already changed positions, but I think this actually might be a better role for him on this team, especially with his playmaking ability in the running game. So we have to see about Avery Williams. Then you look at Daquan Graham, right? I think this is for him to have a big season as well. So, and then last but not least, Frank Darby, the resident joker for the team. Um, right now, he's a fringe guy, right? Because we looked at the wide receiver depth right now, and based off what he did last year, we don't we don't know what we can expect from Frank Darby, because he only had one reception last year. I don't think it was fought because he just was not able to get on the field, but that's because he couldn't learn offense. The other guys was just way ahead of him. From the playbook standpoint, from a skill standpoint, we don't know. But last year, Frank Darby was not able to actually touch the field as a receiver. He played a lot of special teams. You guys know from my 53-man roster projection, I did pick Frank Darby to make the roster because he was selected. Pretty much that's one of the reasons why, because he was a draft pick, and like I said, he played a lot of special teams where he was productive from that standpoint. We kind of forget about some of those guys get picked in the fifth and sixth round sometimes. Um, for those guys, special team is where they're going to actually make the team, right? So, like we talked about Avery Williams. Avery Williams was great last year as a returner for us. I think that's one of the reasons why he's going to make the team, even though that running back room is deep right now. I think Avery Williams is going to make the team because of his return ability. People forget about special teams a lot and think about defense, offense, but special teams definitely play a big role into some of the things that we could look forward to, you know, from a team standpoint. And from the Falcon standpoint, from team building standpoints, um, I know they're looking at guys that can make impact from special teams. And if you look at our return game over the last couple of years, we've been trying to find a good returner for a while. I think we have found that guy. I think Ed Williams um, can be dynamic. I don't know how many kickoff returns he's going to return this year, because we still have CP, who's probably, um, besides Devin Hester, probably one of the greatest kickoff returners in NFL history. So I don't know if they want to take that role for him. I know they did last year because he was getting a lot of touches on offense. It still could be the case this year, but we'll have to see about Cardell and see what they're going to, allow him to do this year from a special team standpoint. So, guys, let me know what y'all think about Richard Grant. Do you think he's going to live up to the expectations this year? Like I said, I think he's going to be that starter for us. I think he's going to start at free safety, even though they're going to intermingle that safety positions. I think he's a great tackler. I think if you go back and look at his college film, um, that's why he had what 9 or 10 touchdowns in college, because he can read and react well. And like I said, he's very um, good in space at making tackles and things like that. So um, he just have to know the defense. Um, Dean P said he's going to go from putting the 60% that he felt like he had last year to the 100% this year. So you definitely need to be on the lookout for Richard Grant. All right, so let's get into our next topic real quick. Our next topic is the fact that and we just going off basically what we heard. If I was actually at the open practice that the Atlanta Falcons had at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and one of the things that Arthur Smith mentioned that um, and Terry Fontenot as well is that the guys that we see on the roster right now is definitely they think it's some more guys that it's not currently on the roster that might just make the 53 man roster. So so I know some of these guys looking like, wow. So some of us not going to make it, and so that means they're going to actually find guys, from the street, like he did. I think Terry Fontenot, pro scout background, he find guys from anywhere. Like he found Eric Harris, like he found D. Alford from um, places like that. So he know how to go out and find guys. Um, to bring in to help this team be better. They did it last year. Think about Anthony Rush. Think about Mike Pennell, guys they brought in to help, especially when we were struggling in our run game. And so I think things like that is definitely what we need to be on the lookout um, before training camp. And they already started. Of course, we talked about Eddie Goldman, who they actually brought in yesterday, and in my opinion, Eddie Goldman has a chance to be a starter on this team. He was a starter with Chicago Bears. He has a lot of experience playing that 3-4 D tackle. Of course, we thought Anthony Rush could be that guy. Um, Vincent Taylor, he was actually a starter with the Texans before he got hurt. So, but I think out of those three guys, Eddie Goldman might has the most experience, and he might has the leg up to be a starter. So think about they bringing a guy in right before training camp, and he could already be the day one starter at that position. That's the kind of things that we could kind of expect from the front office, Terry Fontenot, and what Arthur Smith may be looking for. So just looking at some of the holes that we could anticipate that we could be having, that we definitely still need to be looking at some competition in. Arthur Smith mentioned that he was thinking about bringing more guys into the trenches, right? So I'm thinking when he say the trenches, I'm thinking about the offensive line and defensive line. So we already talked about the struggles that the offensive line had last year. It could be for so many different reasons, right? Every time the offensive line struggles, it's not just because of the offensive line itself. It's about the quarterback play, the receivers being able to get off blocks. We understand all those things, but at the end of the day, the numbers are the numbers. They are what they are. The Atlanta Falcons had one of the worst offensive line statistically last year. So um, that's just a fact. We have to just look at it and call a spade a spade. That's what it is. They were not that good. So you have to think that um, from a coaching standpoint, from a team building standpoint, you got to look and say, how can we make this offensive line better, bring in competitions? yes, they invested in people like a Jalen Mayfield. They invested in somebody like a Drew Dalman as well. So you want they from the standpoint of those guys drafting those guys and bringing them in, they want those guys to succeed, right? Um, However, you think about people like a Caleb McGarry and Matt Hennessy, they did not draft those guys. So, um, but if those guys the best guys, that's who they're going to roll with. But we already know they brought in guys already from the offensive line standpoint, like a Elijah Wilkins, a Jermaine Fetty. They got Kobe Gossett here. They drafted Justin Schaefer. We already know Drew Dalman and Matt Hennessy is going to actually compete once against one another. And they brought in the other center as well. I can't think of his name right now. Came in with Dalton, the defensive tackle, early in the offseason. So, but just going off the offensive line, some guys that they could consider bringing in, um, just to add to more competition from an offensive line standpoint. A guy like Eric Flowers, offensive lineman, played with the Washington football team last year. They could bring him in. He's still young. Um, I think he plays better at guard than he plays at tackle. So we just have to see um, if that's one of the things that he could do. And then a guy that played with the Super Bowl champs last year, Quentin Spain, right? They can bring him in. He's only 30-year old. Somebody. So those two guys they could bring in and spice up, the offensive line room and see if they could actually add to the competition to what we already have. To me, and I think to a lot of other people, Jalen Mayfield um, really still it seems like they're not bringing in enough competition for that. So it seems like they're going to roll with Jalen Mayfield again this year. We know talked about that jump. He could have that jump from year one to year two. We just don't know. We just have to see if Jalen Mayfield actually going to be able to have that jump. So next position that we could consider, um, defensive pass rush. Right, we had 18 sacks last year. Personally, I believe that the guys that we added already this season is definitely going to improve our pass rush. Guys like Ebiketie, um, D'Angelo Malone, Lorenzo Carter. I think Okendeji is definitely going to have an uptick. But if they still feel like if they think might be some holes, they don't think Ebiketie and D'Angelo Malone is going to be ready to hit the ground day one. Because we got to be able to fix the pass rush this year. So a couple of guys that's still out there that they could bring in. Um, Jason Pierre-Paul still out there. I know he's a little on the older side, but if you want to bring a veteran in to help with our young pass rushers, remember they did that um, with the White Freeney to Vic Beasley, and we ended up going to the Super Bowl. So you could bring in guys like that. Anthony Barr is still out there. I was surprised Anthony Barr was still out there, but probably yeah, last couple of years he probably haven't lived up to some of his what he did early in his career. So, but he's still out there. And then from a joking standpoint, Tat McKinley's still out there as well. So we can bring back Tat McKinley, right? I was just playing on that. I think that ship has sailed on Tat McKinley. Um, he showed it, in my opinion, he actually showed a lot of flashes where he had his power. He just couldn't stay healthy, and then from a mindset standpoint, it seemed like um, he might didn't have it all up there. So I don't know if we want to bring that headache back. Um, Thought he was going to actually be able to do something with the Cleveland Browns, but he was not able to stick with that team. So Tat McKinley's still out there. But from an edge standpoint, if they want to actually spice it up, bring a veteran in. Of course, the oldest guy right now from a just veteran standpoint is Lorenzo Carter, but he's still on the young side. So we don't have one of those old savvy veterans at the edge position. Um, Maybe they might consider bringing one of those guys in. We just have to see, right? From another standpoint, um, now we already stacked with receivers, right? But of course, you guys seen the odds of Mr. Julio Jones coming back to the Atlanta Falcons. They had the Falcons as the eight best odds for Julio returning back to the Falcons. I don't think so. I don't think that'll ever happen. But we do have two young receivers um, on the team that I think would definitely benefit from somebody like a Julio Jones to show them how to run routes. Um, this guy was we know how great Julio was in his prime. I think at this point in time he might just be washed up based off his last two seasons. We just seemed like he just body just break down on him. But anyway, him coming to the Falcons, being that veteran guy, working with Drake London and Brian Edwards, um, two other big body receivers, um, I think something like that could definitely help those guys. I don't see it happening at all, but just throwing it out there. They was talking about the odds. If he was to come back to the Falcons, I wouldn't hate it, but at the same time, I don't think he could be able to help us that much in the passing game. Um, but he's still Julio Jones, so maybe he could have one of those games where he 150 yards, 10 receptions. You don't know, so but just want to throw that out there. Will Fuller still out there as a receiver. Um, T.Y. Hilton, OBJ still out there. Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, just veteran guys they want to bring in to this young, inexperienced receiver room. If the Falcons were thinking about bringing in a veteran guy, some of those guys could be somebody they could consider, even though our receiver room is very deep right now. So, um, personally, I don't think they are even looking at the receiver position. But if they thought they needed a veteran in there to help, because we are a young team, especially at a lot of our skill positions. So, um, just a thought, right? At the D line, we already brought in Eddie Goldman, but if they wanted to, they still felt like they didn't think Marlon Davidson was going to pan out or um, Taquan Graham. I don't think that's the case. Taquan Graham just his second year, got to give him a chance, right? But um, Dominic Sue still out there. It was rumors that he was thinking about going to either the Raiders, maybe the Chargers. I'm not sure. I think it was the Raiders, but Sue's still out there, and Tyler Davidson's still out there too. So, just another joke. Definitely don't want Tyler Davidson back. That's the reason why he's still out there. I think um, because he just didn't play that good for us last year, and it maybe could just be the scheme fit. I think he's more of a 4-3 defensive lineman. But I say 3-4 defensive lineman. So um, he just didn't fit the scheme that we had um, for this team. And so maybe he'll pick up later on during the off season on somebody's team, but he definitely not a fit for the Atlanta Falcons. That was just a joke. I do not want to bring back Tyler Davidson. So just like I said, just joking, guys. And then when we looked at those positions, we could look at a lot of more positions. They could bring somebody in, another quarterback in to compete with Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ritter, which I definitely don't see that happening. Those guys going to be in a um, fierce quarterback competition this off season, and maybe the best man wins for that. So that position is definitely out. Like I said, we have a lot of defensive backs. We don't think we need any more linebackers. Um, so right now, just looking at it, if the Falcons were to bring in more players, in my opinion, it'd be somebody who has some veteran experience to bring in to actually help some of these younger guys um, develop. How to be a pro, how to play the position. You know, give them the little nuances and how to play that position better. Like I said, they brought in somebody like a Dwight Freeney, right? And I think that helped Big Beasley, um, and because he had one of his best seasons of his career. So we already know, you know, so that could be avenue they could go right. But I'm just going off. Arthur Smith did say that they was actually going to make some changes. They made a few changes already, but it's going to be interesting to see if they make any more. But if they do decide some of the guys that, in my opinion, that might not even make it to training camp if they decide to actually go down the route of adding more players, because you could only go to training camp with 90 guys. But guys like Jared Bernhardt, right? This guy, uber athletic, played lacrosse, won the so-called Heisman for lacrosse. Then he actually took a Division II team as a quarterback, won a championship. So he's athletic, but you know it's that transition from going from being a lacrosse player to a quarterback in Division II to being a receiver in NFL would be very tough for him. Um, so if they had to make room, because our receiver room is so deep, I think that's where they would start in the receiver room. So Jared Barnhart, and two of the other undrafted free agent signing, Stanley Berryhill and Tyshawn James as well. So um, like I said, that I mean, it's just the nature. They went to training camp with 12 guys, a receiver. A lot of those guys is not going to get opportunities to show what they can do. I think that's just too many receivers. I think you got to go in with probably nine, nine receivers, at the most 10, because you have to see what you got. If you got 13 guys, 12 guys, that's just too many. And you want to be able to get all these guys in to get reps. Only doing three preseason games. I think most of the guys going to play in preseason this year anyway. So um, that's just too many receivers, in my opinion. Could be wrong, but I believe that the receiver room was going to be cut down to about like 9 to 10, um, before training camp, which means that they're definitely bringing somebody else in to fill some of these other positions. Um, we saw the other day they got rid of Brad Hawkins, um, safety, right? Defensive back room is deep as well. So from one of those positions, from the defensive backfield to the receiver room. I think if when they do decide to bring people in, because like I said, I really believe that the Atlanta Falcons is definitely going to go ahead and bring in um, some other people to actually um, to make to compete on this 53 man roster and training camp parts that 90 man squad. So guys, that's what I have today. Um, the biggest thing I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to come on live because um, just trying to get a hang of this live thing, and just come out here and talk about these Atlanta Falcons. I can't wait. It's 3 weeks away um, from training camp. You already see guys training. Um, I love that quote that Grady Jarrett put out there to say he just can't sit around and not do anything. He want to make sure he's always doing something. That's the kind of motivation you want to see from one of your leaders on the team. Um, I seen a clip of Desmond Ritter and Drake London out working on their game as well. Hopefully, all these guys going to come in. They're going to be ready to go, 100%. And let's hope that these guys stay healthy throughout preseason. So when the season does start, we be at 100%. Um, going to be interesting to see if Deion Jones is going to be at 100%. Um, start the training camp. That's really going to be interesting, because if he is 100%, is he going to get that started nod, or is it Michael Walker's time to get that nod? Is Rashawn Evans going to come in and take Foyer's spot as the other starter? So um, just be interested to see. A lot of storylines that we definitely going to be looking for. It's going to be an exciting time for these Atlanta Falcons, because, as we know, for the first time in 14 years, we will not have Matty Ice up under center. Um, and 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 if you think about it, we talked about this as well from that 2016 Super Bowl team. It's only three guys left. So this is basically a new Atlanta Falcons team. The same team that the analysts said it was the 31st ranked rush roster in the NFL. So we'll just have to see. All right. So guys, that's all I got. Let me know what you think about Richard Grant. Let me know what you think about some of these potential moves they can make. Some of those guys that I called off. Could you see any of those guys being on the team? Would you even like a JPP, a Julio Jones, a type T.Y. Hilton, any of those guys? Would you like a Dominic Sue to be on the team? All right, just throwing those names out there, or is it somebody else that we're not even talking about? Because we know when this regime bring in guys, sometimes it's some guys we never even heard of before, and but then you go do your research and you're like, wow, this guy actually might be pretty good. So I love the way Terry Fontenot go through looking, turning on every stone, trying to find the best guy to come in and help this team compete. Last thing I want to say before we get out of here is what's going on, Wallace? You yeah, what's going on, guys? What's going on, everybody? Um, you pretty much missed most of what I was talking about. Like I said, I talked about Richie Grant, um, his expectations. He has the upper hand to actually to be the starter this year at free safety. It's going to be up to him. I think this has got to be his year for him to actually come in and do his thing. So if he does not, um, we have to look at Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot and start to look at some of their draft class, especially last year's draft class, because we don't know about this year's draft class. I think this year's draft class is going to be pretty good. But if you look at some of the guys they picked up, like a um, Richie Grant, Jalen Mayfield, um, Drew Dahlman, so all those guys, right? Um, that draft class could be. And usually, when you get a draft class, you draft that many guys, you want 3 or 4 of those guys to pan out. I know it's kind of early because it's just going to their second season, but um, Jalen Mayfield has to play better this year. He already going up on the competition. Um, Richard Grant has to play better. Drew Dahlman, then he might have the upper hand to actually take that starting center position over Matt Hennessy. So we'll just have to see about that. But we just have to see. Um, so guys, that's all I have. Unless you guys got any questions for me about Richie Grant or any other thing, any guys that you think they might bring in before training camp. If not, guys, that's all I have today. Like I said, this is your boy Ricondo coming at you with another video. Peace.